Hey everybody, welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Choosing Beggar Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe and click on notifications so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, we have one of the most entitled choosing beggars I have ever seen. She thinks she can walk into her neighbor's house at any time. Let's jump right in. Before I get started, please note I was young when this happened and I have learned not to get walked on or allow this type of behavior to happen anymore. This story happened many years ago. While we were in the military, we moved frequently, and at one base in particular, we lived in condo-style houses. These were lines of homes that have one or two walls that are connected to each other. I mention the type of house because it shows how close we were to our neighbors. We did have our own driveways, but they were for single cars and were right next to our neighbors. This base was in a warm location where we should have had air conditioning, but we did not. We were enlisted and lived in older houses, and only newer enlisted or officer housing had air conditioning. The reason I mention this is because I would leave my front door open and have just the screen door closed so we could get crosswind to cool the house down. Should not have been a big deal, right? Wrong. Our neighbor that was connected to our left liked to come over and borrow things. Our neighbor, or choosing beggar as she will be referred to moving forward, would come over, and at the beginning she would knock and she would ask for things such as a cup of sugar or milk. Then, as time passed, choosing beggar would knock and just walk in, and at this point she still asked for stuff. To be honest, this didn't really bother me too bad because it wasn't too frequent, and then all of a sudden it changed, and choosing beggar stopped knocking altogether and began just walking in. I did say something, keeping it light in hopes that it would work. I knew we were going to be neighbors for a while, and I knew it could be trouble to have a bad relationship between neighbors. Back then, I had a lot of anxiety about having negative interactions with people. Then, choosing beggar became pregnant, and her entitlement all of a sudden knew no bounds. Choosing beggar would not only walk into my house, she would go into my fridge or freezer and grab whatever she wanted. This one time I was making dinner and she walked over, smelled it, grabbed a plate, and served herself. I said something to the effect of, "I am making that for my husband," and choosing beggar responded that she is only taking a little and there will be plenty for him. That was it. I was mad. After that, I tried locking my screen door, but the cheap lock wouldn't hold. Choosing beggar was able to pull the door open and eventually snap the lock off. I finally said screw it and started shutting my actual door, which sucked because it was hot and no air conditioning, but it was better than dealing with her every day. I thought that would work, but she started going through our back door and coming through our screen door. Oh, did I mention her husband was like 3 ranks higher than mine was? And she was seriously taking from us when they could afford way more. Anyway, this went on while choosing beggar was pregnant. Finally, after choosing beggar had had her baby, choosing beggar started asking for even more. She wanted my husband to come kill bugs when her husband wasn't home. She asked me to do things she could easily do for herself, like go to the grocery store. The final straw was when she woke me up at 2 a.m. saying, "So cold," and mumbling. I seriously thought something was wrong with her baby. I got up, woke my husband up, let him know, and ran over to her house. And I do mean ran. I ran into her house, the door was unlocked, and choosing beggar was lying on the couch. She wasn't feeling good. She wanted me to get her a blanket from her upstairs closet. I finally lost my stuff and told her I thought something was wrong with her baby. I was over it. I told her, "Choosing beggar, you are not to walk into our house without permission, and you are not to ask my husband for anything anymore. The only way it is ever okay to call me in the middle of the night ever again is because you need 911. Choosing beggar just looked at me and said something about, "Since I am here, can't I get the blanket?" and that I am being a horrible neighbor. I walked out of the house, went home, and went to bed. Moving forward, Choosing Beggar scowled at me every time she saw me and pointed at me and talked about me to her husband and the other neighbors, who told me about it later. One glorious day, Choosing Beggar's husband got orders and they finally moved. I was so happy because of how uncomfortable she made my life just living in my own home until she left. Story number 2 shows us a choosing beggar who thinks if a restaurant is giving out free dessert, then it has to go to her. I ordered 5 pizzas and some garlic knots for pickup at Blaze Pizza. The email said it would be ready in 25 to 35 minutes, 7:20 at the latest. I came around 7:30 and as I walked in, the guy handling orders, Ted, said, "All right, getting some ready for OP." A woman, Susan, was getting her pizza made for her in line behind me. She was waited on immediately because no one else was in line. After, she stood behind me waiting for her pizza to be cooked. By that point, I had already been waiting about 15 minutes, but I didn't mind. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Blaze, but they're always busy and usually have 10 people on staff. Today, they had 4. They forgot my garlic knots, and so while they were getting them ready, I asked another guy about getting dessert. I pulled out my wallet and asked for 3 cookies and 1 brownie. He said something to Ted, then held them out to me and said, "Don't worry about it, thanks for being so patient." I said, "No, you don't have to do that." And Susan chirps up behind me saying, "Well, I'll take them and throw in some extra brownies to even it out." The register guy and I just stood there awkwardly. Then she reached out and grabbed them from his hand. He fumbled around and Ted walked over to tell Susan she had to pay for the desserts if she wanted them, while the register guy handed me new desserts. Susan was starting a scene because she was also entitled to free desserts, since she had to wait too. Ted explained to her that she was only waiting for the pizza to cook and he couldn't make that go faster. He ended up saying that she could have 1 dessert only, but she continued to fight for the same amount that I got plus more for her troubles today. My garlic knots finished and I got the flip out of there as fast as I could. Ted nodded at me as I walked out while Susan was still yelling at him. In story number 3, we have a choosing beggar who offers to buy some shoes and then tries to Jedi mind trick our OP into buying her shoes instead. This story is so shallow, but what the heck. Well, this happened a week ago. It took me this long to post because until now, I'm still confused as to who the choosing beggar is. I suspect it might be me, but then again, I guess the decision is for Reddit to make. So I posted some heels on the Facebook Marketplace. They are in excellent condition and reasonable brands, but I posted them for $10 each just so I can get rid of them. I haven't been using them at all. However, I also indicated in my post that I am accepting swaps or trades, so I can potentially get shoes I will use instead of just storing. Enter Karen, for lack of a better name. So Karen wanted the red pair and wanted to swap because she has loads of shoes. There was some back and forth that I also have some clothing or accessories etc. to make her trip to me worthwhile. She lived around 40 minutes away. She initially wanted me to meet where she is. Lol, no. Or to meet her halfway. Still no. Then she settled on picking it up herself, which I prefer. Then she insisted on shipping. I didn't like this option because it means I have to spend money to send her the shoes if it's a swap. At this point, I realized she's making all these arrangements, but I still haven't seen her shoes that she wanted to trade for. I told her she can send me the photos of her shoes she wants to trade for the red pair she wanted. She said she'll send them over the next day. So the next day, she sent me a photo of some high-heel boots from Guess. I thought to myself, this looks fancy, but realistically, I will probably just keep it in storage. Then she sent me a bunch of other photos of maybe 5 more pairs of shoes. I settled on a pair of beige shoes with studs, kind of like a Valentino, and she agreed. Here's where it turns upside down and the confusion as to who the choosing beggar starts. If you want just beige, I can post it to you and you can post red one to me. Is it okay? That is $110 in free postage. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Here's more photos of the shoes so you know that there isn't any damage and that it's in new condition. I sent the photos. Sorry, dear, I can't swap the beige one with red. You are selling the red for $10, but I'm selling that for $110. I will buy from you instead. At this point, I got confused because she already agreed and now she is backtracking. I'd like to swap. If not interested to swap, it's okay. Then if I didn't have anything to swap, then what are you gonna do? I can swap with the others except beige and the boots. Then why did you send the photos if you don't want to swap, or if you think the value is unfair? Why didn't you just offer to buy them if you say it's only $10? It's confusing for me why you would send me the photos to choose from, and then when I choose, you back out. It just doesn't feel right to me. You can have the beige one, but you should pay $100 more, and I will take $10 off for getting your shoes. If you're worried about the price, I priced them cheap because I'm not using them anyways, but the real price for them is like $60 US or almost 100 Australian dollars. But if you don't want to swap, that's alright. No, sorry. Okay, have a nice day. And then I left the group. I don't know. I feel like I'm the choosing beggar here because her item is, at least according to her, more expensive. But my thinking is, she wanted my shoes. She knew I priced them at only $10, she sent me the photos anyway, and now she's trying to have me spend an extra $100. I guess I just think that what she did is a real jerk move. In our final story, we have a choosing beggar cousin who, when she is offered a gift, figures that means she has free reign to buy some other people gifts as well. This happened over 5 years ago. My boyfriend's cousin is the typical entitled Karen. Nothing anyone ever does for her is good enough. But back then, she, Karen, and my boyfriend, Darren, were at least on speaking terms. At the time, Darren's entire extended family was gathered at his parents' place. Cousin Karen's birthday was approaching. She put on her sickeningly sweet smile and asked him what he was getting her. Darren's career had recently taken off and he was feeling generous, so he asked her what she wanted. Without hesitation, the cousin asked for a pair of platinum earrings. Darren was a bit surprised, but he agreed. That evening, he took her to a jewelry store. Cousin Karen picked out a pair of sapphire-studded earrings along with a nice pair of cufflinks. Darren asked what she was doing, as he had only agreed to buy her earrings. Cousin Karen had the nerve to get irritated and told him she needed something for her husband as their anniversary was in a few weeks. Darren's first instinct was to chew her out right there, but then he had a better idea. He paid for the jewelry and drove them back to his parents' place where, to his cousin's horror, he gave the earrings to his sister and announced that he had bought himself a nice pair of cufflinks. Cousin Karen became upset and whined to everyone that Darren had lied to her and that she felt cheated and embarrassed. Darren simply told the family what she had tried to pull. Darren's parents and the other relatives sided with him and told the cousin that she's the one who tried to trick him. Cousin Karen's parents looked upset, but they didn't stand up to defend their daughter's actions. This has been John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then hit that subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.